Hello and welcome everyone to this recording of how to connect Tableau to REST APIs live. My name is Timo Tautmann. I'm a senior solution consultant at Tableau Software in EMEA. So first and foremost, the solution I'm going to talk about today is a third-party software called Progress, and you definitely need to license that software if you want to leverage that. The second part, after I'm telling you how I actually got to know Progress, I'm going to talk about how you can leverage Progress to connect to your data, and I will demo that. And last but not least, I'm going to show you how to embed Tableau into your application. I'm not going to focus on the single sign-on or authentication part, but please feel free to reach out to me if you're having questions around that. Well, so my progress story. So the customer situation I was facing is the following. So the customer was having an application, which you can see here, and they were having a data source, which I was not allowed to connect to other than via a REST API. So I was searching for something between Tableau and that REST API. Of course, I could have used the web data connector, but the web data connector is always an extract only or extract at a certain point in time kind of thing. You can schedule that, absolutely right. But in some cases, you want to leverage a live connection. And that was when I was searching for, well, I found Progress, but I was really searching for an adapter between ODBC or SQL and REST. And I've actually found Sumit Sakar, who's a chief data evangelist at Progress, and he was doing a blog post about how to actually build a custom ODBC driver for RESTful APIs. And well, I was using his approach to build something which I'm going to describe how it's working technically before I'm going to demo it. So this is really how it works, right? So on the right-hand side, you're having your visualization tool of choice. And on the left-hand side, you're having your application. And in between, the main part is actually that one, which is the Progress service, which acts as a proxy to translate SQL statements, which Tableau is creating, and sending that over to an ODBC driver, which is a custom driver for open access. And then that one is actually sending the SQL statement to that service. And Progress then will take care of how to create a REST call to your REST API. And of course, there's a little bit of manual work that needs to be done, but Progress is doing the heavy lifting for you, and you just need to modify the framework they're offering to you, and you adjust that to your REST API. That's basically what it's doing. And once that API, that REST call was done, it will send back the REST call to Open Access, which is the product of Progress, and that one will actually send over the result set to the ODBC driver, which Tableau can then use to visualize the data. So that's how it's working. I now want to do the part from here, right? So I already created my ODBC connection and the driver, and I actually want to connect Tableau to that ODBC connection from scratch. So let's do that. So here I'm having Tableau Desktop, and of course you can connect yourself to many data sources in the cloud or on premise, but the scenario I was describing is we need to connect Tableau live to that REST API. So therefore I'm going to choose other databases, and I already set up an ODBC connection which contains the certain ports my open access service needs in order to talk to the REST API. So let me sign in, and then I'm choosing a database like I'm always doing that, and I'm choosing Alpha Vantage. And Alpha Vantage is really the API I'm using in that example. So therefore, it might help you if I'm going to show you that. So this is the documentation of Alpha Vantage. And on the left-hand side, you're seeing what is the data, the table of content, what's the data which can be received by whatever application you want to use. And you're seeing that this like at least weekly time series, which I can request via that call down here, um, I definitely need to have two fields to be pre-filtered, which is symbol, and symbol in that example is really like the stock symbol, and then the time series I want to have a look at. So it can be time series weekly, time series monthly, time series intraday, like all the different things which are described above and below where I'm at right now. That's why I'm not seeing any content on the bottom. So I need to make sure that I filter on function on the one hand side, and definitely make sure that you're not pressing the search symbol, because you won't get anything before you're adding the two fields, right? Which is like the time series you want to have a look at, the weekly, as well as you need to make sure that you're choosing at least one symbol. That's how this API is structured. So let's take Facebook, because that was in the news lately. And again, you can't search for it. You really need to fill it in as a custom value list. Okay, once this is done, you can press the Update Now button, and that's when you now see the result at the very first time. So let's use that at the beginning and make it turn it in something more visual. Therefore, I want to have a look at the close values for all the timestamps which are provided over here. In the version which is available to me, it's an actual string, but the support for time series will be there soon. So Progress told me it will be probably mid 2018. Looking forward to that part. So now you're seeing this, the actual whole time series, and you can see there's a huge drop down over here in the last 2 weeks. So therefore, I want to know what that means percentage wise. So let's turn that into a percent difference from the day before. Let's make that look a little bit better. And now I'm seeing there was a huge drop down of 13% in the week before last week. And we are also seeing that this was not the largest drop down. In 2012, there was even a larger drop down. So that's my first analysis, which is percent change for Facebook. Now, the second question is that a typical thing for vendors on the internet um, having such huge drop downs? And therefore, I want to add Microsoft to it. So let's take symbol and show that as a filter. And you can already see on the top right, there's just that single value, right? Because we pre-filtered it. And so therefore, even if I change it to a custom list where I fill in Microsoft, and let's add that, you won't see anything, because the data source filter itself is set to Facebook. So if I'm not removing that, of course, I will not get a preview here because it's a required field. But now this view will update to do a live query against the REST API of AlphaVantage, and will turn that into a result set. And that can take like a couple of seconds or more. It depends really on your connection to the API. And I'm using a demo API here, so it's really a lot of variety over here. Sometimes it's better and sometimes it's worse. It doesn't feel like it's really the amount of data I'm receiving. Okay, so this is now for Microsoft only, but as I was removing Facebook from the data source filter, I can now re-add it in here. The API in that example is offering me to have like up to 10 different fields. Now, of course, that doesn't look nice, so therefore let's turn that into a line, and let's move that into, or let's just get, no, let's turn that away over here. No, that was not what I wanted to do. Let me cancel that. I want to get rid of the color. So let me give a couple of seconds. So let me pause it. I want to put that over here. I want to take symbol to the color. That was what I wanted to do. And let's get rid of the table calculation. That's exactly what I wanted to do. And maybe that's also good to leave that on the recording, because the pause button can help you to be faster if you're already knowing what you want to visualize. Okay, so here we're seeing that Facebook like made it in 2013 and passed Microsoft like that share. So that is my comparison, or one versus the other. Let's just call it versus. Cool. There are a bunch of more things you can do here, so let's do one more thing. Let me duplicate that part. So at the moment, I would just like to look at the year rather on the whole date. So of course, I can't use like the functionality of time yet because of the driver. As I said, it will come, but I can create a calculated field which is giving me the year. So I could say, give me the left of timestamp recorded, and I just want to have 4 digits. And if I'm now taking that and put that into the column shelf, it will break it down by year, which is pretty cool that is possible in such an easy way. You just need to make sure that you're not using the sum of the closing value, but the average, so that it really makes sense. Okay, so now we're having the yearly values rather than the whole date thing. Um, Maybe maybe one more thing, because that's I love that within Tableau, which is you can of course create also something like a heat map. So if I'm interested in seeing in which days or month, let's say in month of the year, we were having like the best time in terms of our share price, I can create also the month even without having that time functionality yet, and that will be mid of my timestamp again. And at this time, I start at the fifth um, position of that string. And I just want to have 2, which should be my month. Let's see if that's the case. Or if I'm having the minus instead, which I don't want to have. Yeah, I'm having the minus. So it needs to be 6 rather than 5, right? So from the 6th position in my string, I want to have 2 fields, which is now my monthly value. Now let's put closing into my color, and we're taking month into the rows, and let's remove that and put that into something automatic, and maybe we want to have that for both of our 2 different share prices. And if we are making that again a little bit more catchy, you would have your heat map with, at this point in time, the highest values in red, but that really depends on your color coding, how you want that to look like. Cool, so that would be your heat map. So rather than showing you features and functions, which is pretty much what I've just done now, let me show you one more thing, which is basically also a feature, but an awesome one. So therefore, I'm going to, because at the moment, if I want to connect to a new symbol, I need to type that in, right? I need to say, well, and I also want to have Google. And once I've done that, that will recurry the whole thing, and that's fine, but it's not really visual to type in the symbols here, right? So therefore, rather than doing that, I want to have a list which is giving me all these values. So therefore, let's add another data source, which is Postgres in my example. And the Postgres database contains a list from Wikipedia, which is having the largest internet companies as a really small list in here. But the interesting part is for me that I'm having like some more interesting fields, which are also country and market capital. So therefore, the first and last I want to do is where are most of these large internet companies? So this is really number of companies. And let me put that into the size. And now I'm seeing most of these companies, internet companies, are based out of the United States, then some of Germany, and just one in this example, and then China. So these are my countries. But what I wanted to have is being able to filter on a particular company. So therefore, let's create a ranking for all my different companies I'm having. Let's sort it, and let me show the symbol on the label so that I can see if there's a symbol, like a stock symbol for that particular company or not. So this would be my particular company. So now I can put all of the 3 things I've created at the very end and put it on a single dashboard. Let me clean that a little bit, filter the data, and let me put not the heat map. Let's take the yearly or the detailed comparison here instead. So now I'm seeing Facebook and Microsoft. And if I want to see just the largest one in the US, I can easily filter on them. And then I'm seeing that on the top right. But now I want to see Facebook versus Amazon, for example. Again, I can use that as a filter, and when I'm selecting these two, some magic will happen because Tableau will automatically recognize, well, that field called, what was the name of it again? Symbol is the same we are using down here. I mean, it's not the same because it's coming from a different data source. This one is from the REST API, and the top one is from my Postgres. So, but due to the fact that I'm using the same field name, that Tableau can automatically pass that down to that particular visualization. You just need to make sure that you're not unclearing the value over here because, like I was describing at the beginning, you definitely need to have at least a single value in that visualization below, or in the REST API below, because otherwise you will get an error for it. Okay, so now let's share what we've just created. So if we are uploading that to Tableau Server, you need to make sure that Tableau Server does contain a TDC file, a customization of your ODBC driver. And that comes with the installation of Progress's ODBC driver. So there's something called Open Access TDC, and that's exactly what you need. And you need to copy that into your My Tableau folder, like locally, into the data sources pane, right? So into your documents, My Tableau repository data sources part, in order to make what I've just shown to you. And if you're publishing that to server, there's actually an article about it, which shows you that you need to put that TDC file either into the VisQL server folder of the data source, say it again, in the data sources folder of your VisQL server process, or into your bin folder, so into your installation folder. So I put it into, no, that's the wrong. I put it into the data sources folder in the VisQL server process, and I've already published it so that it's faster to show it to you, but it's exactly what we've seen before, right? You can compare whatever you want to compare to each other, and that will query the REST API live via Progress's API. So now what if I want to share that in my own application? Well, the easiest way of showing that now is taking the embed code. But of course, you can use our JavaScript API. There's a video out there which I will put below that recording on tableauoffense.com, which helps you to actually start with it. But once you're taking that code or the JavaScript API, you can simply take the viz you want to use and just make sure that you size it correctly, right? So the width, instead of using that 100%, 1000 pixel, I want to use like 100% of the available space in my frame. And you can do the same thing in the JavaScript API to make sure that it fits perfectly to your screen. And then again, it's highly interactive. You can filter on whatever you want, and that will directly apply the filter to Progress, which will get back to you with the results at. And again, down here, if you're putting something like an alerting in here, yeah, you're not allowed to pre-filter something to do that. But that's the last thing I want to make you available of. If you're deselecting that and you don't exclude all the values, you will get like that error, which is saying, well, I'm unable to connect to it, right? Once you're reselecting fields, you're all good again. That's just the downside, or you as the creator of the content just need to be aware of that. Cool. One last embedding example I want to show with you is that fake application, which is just styled a little bit more like visual appealing, at least to me. And it's meant to be a web page where you can then dynamically integrate something we've just created. And again, it's highly dynamic. You can filter in it. It's more of an example of show how you can actually embed Tableau rather than that REST API kind of live thing. But it's like bringing both worlds together, right? So this is now a daily view. You can see the percent change for Google. You can do like many things Tableau is just being able to do out of the box. Just want to make sure that you've seen that example as well. Cool. So I'm really looking forward what you're saying about that ability to connect live to a REST API. Looking forward to your feedback and hopefully you enjoyed the WebEx. Thank you. Bye bye.